Hi everyone, you're listening to Between the Lines with Rebecca
And Jess.
and we're recording here at our studio in Whitby, Ontario. It's our Monday show on January the 12th, and we'll start it as we always do with our random fact. Go ahead, Jess.
As a schoolboy, Roald Dahl, the author of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, was a taste tester for Cadbury's chocolate, which is most likely his inspiration for writing the book in the first place.
Wow, that's really cool, Jess.
Anywho, we've been requested to talk about the faults of humanity and how certain selfish desires can lead to one's downfall.
And we've actually found two characters to go along with this theme or concept. And the characters were born like maybe 600 years apart. The first one that we found was Gatsby, who was in the novel The Great Gatsby, written by Fitzgerald in 1925, which was later adapted in the 70s and 2000s into a movie.
Right? And then the other guy that we found, Macbeth, he was the protagonist in the play Macbeth, written by Shakespeare in 1606. And they just had very similar conflicts, which it was man versus self, and how their harsh motivations just led to their
self-demise, right? Yeah. So to go into further detail, The Great Gatsby was about a man who was in love with a girl who was very flaky.
Who was in love with the idea. He was just infatuated with her and the American dream that came with her.
And we found a quote that perfectly portrayed Gatsby as a character. It was when Gatsby was reunited with this girl again after 5 years.
By Nick Carraway, her cousin, who was also
the
Gatsby's
narrator.
Friend.
Yes, and was also the narrator.
Right.
Who is saying this quote at the moment. There must have been moments, even that afternoon, when Daisy tumbled short of his own dreams. Not through her own fault, but because of the colossal vitality of his illusion. It had gone beyond her, beyond everything. He had thrown himself into it with a creative passion, adding to it all the time, decking it out with every bright feather that drifted his way. No amount of fire or freshness can challenge what a man will store up in his ghostly heart.
So the significance of this quote is that Daisy met short of his expectations, however, it wasn't her fault. He just had this vast illusion that it was no longer attainable. Throughout the 5 years, Daisy moved on, and he just kept building on top of this passion, and it could no longer be fulfilled.
Exactly. And what also was significant in this quote was the diction chosen, such as the colossal vitality of his illusion, or the fire of freshness that can't challenge what a man will store up in his ghostly heart. It just shows...
It's an alliteration as well.
It's a what?
An alliteration.
Of course it is. But it just shows how far off Gatsby is and the destruction that he has caused with his relationships.
The colossal destruction that happened, and how his relationships with everyone just sort of diminished and withered away. Well, he didn't really have a strong relationship with anyone to begin with, however.
But he did gain one with Nick.
Right.
When he chose Ghostly Heart, it just shows how close he got with Nick, and how Nick knows him so well that he can describe Gatsby in such a way and know that Gatsby is so hung up on the past that that flaw can cause his self-demise.
So similar to Gatsby, Macbeth is about Macbeth, the protagonist himself, being told a prophecy by the witches, and he basically becomes infatuated with gaining this prophecy and wants to do everything in his current power to obtain kingship, which was the final step of the prophecy. However, during this process, he lost all his morals and became a murderous human being who
eventually became king.
Yeah.
But
under his rule.
Yes, through that process, he did lose morals, like Jess said. And because he lost those morals, he lost followers, which had a lot of loyalty to him. And eventually, one of those few decapitated Macbeth, which was his self-demise.
Because he was the one that led to that point. If he hadn't
taken on all those horrible qualities
and all those horrible actions, then he wouldn't have wanted to kill him.
He wouldn't have withered away.
The following quote occurs in a soliloquy when he reasons with himself whether or not he should murder Duncan, the king at the time, who was loyal to his subjects, unlike Macbeth will be after this quote. I have no spur to prick the size of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which overleaps itself and falls on the other. So Macbeth knows that this is morally unacceptable, killing Duncan. However, his ambition overrides everything, causing chaos.
We can see in the quote with words such as prick the sides of my intent, vaulting ambition, and or leaps itself, we can see that it is just chaotic within Macbeth's mind.
Specifically when he says falls on the other, because you know that his ambition is just building up and falling on top of one another, similar to Gatsby.
Yes, exactly. You can find similarities and differences between both the characters and quotes that we produced. In Gatsby's case, he strived for the all American dream, power, and his past with Daisy. And in Macbeth's case, he strives for kingship.
Mm-hmm.
Both characters are ridden with temptation, which is never a good thing because they lead each character to do bad things. Gatsby became a bootlegger in order to gain his wealth, and Macbeth became a murderer in order to obtain his power and his throne.
So the differences between Macbeth and Gatsby are that Gatsby maintained his morals during the novel, whereas Macbeth just went against everything that he originally stood for and became a murderer. Another difference would be the fact that Macbeth knew what he was doing was wrong and just morally unacceptable, but he was just so overridden with everything that he did it anyways, whereas Gatsby had no idea that what he was doing was wrong. He was just so infatuated and in love with Daisy and his ideology of having wealth that nothing seemed to matter anymore.
Well, that's it. So thank you for listening. This has been Between the Lines with Rebecca and Jess, and we hope to see you next week.